Hey, folks, I've got Brian Jones. He's a man stuck in Australia, a Kiwi. And I've just spoken to him for a few minutes, and I found out he's from the Naki, the Taranaki, where I come from. So welcome to our little show, Brian.
Yeah, great. Good to be here, Max.
So whereabouts are you in Aussie?
I'm in Redcliffe, about 30 minutes north of Brisbane at the moment, enjoying the hospitality of the locals here.
It's a lovely area up there too. Isn't there a beach up there close to you?
Yeah, I'm right on the beach. So yeah, I'm making the most of my time stranded over here at the moment. The weather is excellent.
Now, look, I don't know much about your story. I was just advised to give you a call, and I know you're stuck, and it's big hot news in New Zealand right now, the MIQ listing and the terrible situation some people are facing. What situation are you facing at the moment? I understand you want to come home.
Yeah, look, I came on a business trip. I'm probably not in the terribly desperate situation like so many others, but you know, we all have reasons for wanting to get home. I left in early November. The borders were not open at that stage, and there was MIQ in place, but there was a lot of consensus that the government had been talking about opening in the early part of the new year. So I left reasonably comfortable that I'd get a flight back. And yeah, subsequently they did put in place a home isolation from the 17th of January, and I was booked on flights to come home.
And what happened?
Well, Omicron. You know, that turned up worldwide, and look, the government, we know they are always very quick to react to these kinds of threats, and unfortunately myself and thousands of others, we lost our pathway home. Unfortunately, because
so
I left.
You're not alone over there, Brian. You're with someone, are you?
I'm by myself, but I've run into, probably in the 12 weeks I've been away now, would be in the dozens of Kiwis I've come across that in various situations are unable to get home. We've tried the lottery through the MIQ. I think my first attempt, I was 10,004, logging in a few minutes after it opened. And I've met people that have been trying to get back for 8 months and have been unsuccessful.
8 months?
8
Wow,
months.
That must be frightening for you. I mean, how's your boss about this? I mean, you're over there for business, or you're self-employed?
No, I'm working for a large company about to expand into New Zealand, and so look, I'm a lot luckier than others that I do have support around me here to get by on a day-to-day basis. You know, my issues, my need to get home are mine, and I would like to be back in New Zealand. But I mean, I look at some of these terrible cases with. You know, I know of families that are, you know, moved into their cars. There's people that are ill, sick, and they're dying with family overseas, back in New Zealand, and they're overseas. I don't quite fit into that extreme end, but the email I got back was pretty much, you made the choice to come on a business trip. There is no way home unless it's MIQ. And as we know, that itself is on hold at the moment. So there is actually no pathway back.
I got to say, you're a true Kiwi, a true Naki boy. Because what you're saying is, mate, I'm not as bad off as most. And I think that's very generous of you, because in your own world, what you're going through now must be absolute hell. So, well, thank you for that consideration. But are you also aware of the gross embarrassment our government is facing at the moment on a worldwide basis? Have you heard about the woman called Charlotte Bellis, who was a journalist in Afghanistan?
Afghanistan. Yes, look, I actually made contact with Charlotte. And we exchanged a few emails. Look, irrespective that Charlotte has a bit of a profile, I don't think most New Zealanders are aware that Kiwi women who want to travel home to give birth to their children in New Zealand, it's a really tough road for them to try and get back. And that was even when we had MIQ and spots available. Pregnancy is not considered a medical necessity So, they stand at the bottom of the list, the same as the rest of us.
And you know what you've amplified here is that but even her situation is not as bad as a lot of other people. And that's where you generously have said that. You've heard people living in cars, desperate for money. Yep. They go and pay the rent. They got no income. They're absolutely almost starving out there. And those people are desperate. And, it'd be nice to get someone on the show like that. But look, I just want to acknowledge your generosity. But Charlotte has done a great job because she went to the Taliban, and the Taliban have offered her, to look after her. And that's what's made world news, and it shames our government. Are you aware also the government are now, because of her, are now reviewing their policy?
Yes, I am. I'll be quite honest. I've been fairly vocal through a lot of social media over the last 3 or 4 weeks, and it's quite incredible. 3 weeks ago, I would put something out there and I might get 100 views. I'll put something out there now and I can get 8,000 views. Wow. The involvement of people throughout New Zealand is certainly growing. It is a tough situation. I understand probably the initial reasoning behind the government's plan on controlling the border. The fact is that it's a plan that was potentially successful in 2020 and 2021, doesn't fit the needs at the moment. And I am just one of, as I say, many thousands with all sorts of just terrible stories, not able to get back home.
And adds to that is that employers, businesses over here are so desperate for people like yourself who've got skills in those, and the government is just denying them to allow access into those people. That it's even their own employees who are offshore. They won't let them back in here. And it's not only just for family reasons, but other things. But do you know, Brian, I don't know if you're aware, but over in Dubai, in the United Arab Emirates, is hundreds and hundreds of celebrities, singers, entertainers, dancers, all sorts of things, who are coming and going in and out of New Zealand at will. And that, to me, is just saying, where's your priorities?
Well, that's probably one of the key criticisms that I have had. Look, sports people, they are businessmen, businesswomen, if they're getting paid and they're professional. I struggle to see the difference with the categories of them being able to travel in and being given preferential MIQ spots. I personally, my perception, because it affects me, is I'm a business person and I can't get back in. But really,
sports is all about entertainment again, and
it is
what a lot of business people are crying. It's food, it's fundamentals, it's engineering, it's stuff that puts food on the table. It's productive sector of our society is basically dying at the moment. And
well, we can't operate about it. We can't operate a country, cut off from the world. We have international agreements between businesses, and things keep moving. I mean, the world keeps turning and moving on, and we already know that there's a major crisis with supply of goods into our ports and everything else. Our businesses need to have their people out and about and able to travel back. But that's got to be balanced by the fact that everybody should be able to have a pathway back. And again, my main criticism is there is no pathway back. There's no transparency around the MIQ system. It is just a lottery, and we've all taken tickets from the old days with the Art Union and the Golden Kiwi right the way up to Lotto now. Very few win, and it feels exactly the same way.
But Brian, I even recall when the government sent a special plane to some country to bring them out. This is when 2 years ago. But now they just seem to ignore people and saying, tough luck, on your own. And look, it's such a callous way of treating fellow New Zealanders. It really is. Can I say this? I don't know how you feel, but I'm actually quite ashamed of our government and the way it's behaving. What's your thoughts on that? Would you concur with that, or would you say that's a bit harsh?
Look, it's a really tough one. I have no personal animosity with any of our parliamentarians out there. I mean, some of them have some pretty tough decisions to make. I just think that the decisions that have been made over the last 24 to 12 months are ones they're sticking with, and they're not reacting fast enough. They're not flexible enough with the changing dynamics that are out there. I mean, Omicron is not Delta. And look, it's unfortunate that it's in New Zealand, but I arrived in Australia prior to it getting here, and I've been here 12 weeks. And in that time, we've had several million cases. You know, in a 14-day period when I was in Melbourne, there were 400,000 cases in the Victorian area. Look, the death rates are up. So I understand there is a need for doing what they can. It's just this blunt approach. We're going to have tens of thousands probably over the next 6 weeks going through various forms of home isolation. I just cannot see why people that are double vaxxed, booster shots, cannot travel home and go through the same process. We have people with COVID that can home isolate at the moment, and people coming in who could have 4 or 5 tests saying that they are haven't got it, aren't offered the ability to go into home isolation, and now they're not even offered the ability to get into MIQ. There is actually no way for us to get home.
That is terrible. That is really terrible. And look, Brian, if you come across one of our fellow Kiwis stuck over there and living in a car or just desperate, would you mind facilitating them, and both you coming on stream here and talking to us, because it's that really sad desperation that we need to be focused on. And, you know, good on Charlotte Bellis for bringing it to our attention how bad it is. We all knew it was bad, but when you see the Taliban acting more in a more humane way than our own government is, that really is shameful in my view. I just think it's
well look Max, just the week before we had the young child that had the badly injured elbow up in the islands, and was apart from the fact that the media got hold of it, there was no guarantee that they were even going to get an MIQ spot to get her home for surgery. It's irrespective of who or what your issue is. The bar to meet is just incredibly high. Probably most Kiwis don't realise at the moment that there is no bar to meet. I understand there's probably going to be an announcement in the next couple of weeks, but at the moment, unless you were lucky in an MIQ draw, the one in early January or back in October, there is no way, there is no pathway for Kiwis to come in. We cannot get back home.
Brian, I think you ought to thank Charlotte Bellis, because I believe yesterday, was it yesterday, day before, she spoke on Fox TV with a couple of 100 million people watching. And of course, that's international news. I believe she has hit the international news. And I'm thinking it's helping your situation. And mate, as a fellow Kiwi, you know, if I can do anything to help you, I certainly would, and my other Kiwi mates over there in desperate stakes. So look, we have our total support and sympathy, and what we can do from here to help you, just ask.
Look, that's great, Max. And look, thanks for the time. It's just one of these issues we need to get out there.
Well, don't hesitate to come back on. I'd love to have you back on this little show. So good luck, Brian. And would you let us know when you're what the future holds? If you want to come back on, I'm more than happy to have you on. But let us know when you're about to come back. My hope is that there's an announcement tomorrow or the next day. All indications there are, because the government's highly embarrassed. That's what it took. Charlotte Bellis to make a big fool of them in the international media to actually get some action. But I'm hoping tomorrow there's an announcement that you'll be pleased about.
So am I. That's one of the things I've got my fingers crossed for.
Cheers. All the best, Brian.